Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1399. The topic is Q&A, and the title is, What Personal Accessory Equipment Should I Get? This actually did come from a listener, so they sent in a question that says, in a sense, I boiled it down a little bit, is I want to help myself get the best results, but I feel I may be limited by the gym I lift at. So they train at a commercial gym, and they said it's okay. There's some equipment variety, but not really great leg equipment, was their specific kind of concern. And then they said just they'd seen a lot of specialty equipment on Instagram, and a lot of the people they follow train at these private gyms or these fancy gyms, and it's just they're not in the right place in life right now where they can train in a different place than where they're training right now. So they're just kind of feeling bummed that they don't have a lot of this fancy big equipment. They can't buy a $5,000 machine, but they are wondering if there's any kind of small personal equipment that they could get to help them achieve better results. Now, I love the question. I'm going to do kind of my normal kind of due diligence to point out all the basics. Is if you focus on nutrition and training, making sure that your nutrition is correct for your goals and you're tracking it and, giving full attention to it. Make sure your training is good quality, has, meaning behind it, and you're doing appropriate things based on whatever we've learned in our podcast. Or if you have questions, you can always reach out at email brutalirongym@gmail.com, and I'll give you an idea of quality of training. But nutrition and training are by far the most important. If you're doing those things right, you're going to get overwhelming great results. If you're doing either of those things not correctly, no matter what equipment you buy, you will not get the best results. So if you're like, well, what equipment should I get, but you're not tracking your calories or paying attention to your food, or you're not consistent from day to day, that piece of equipment is going to be worthless, basically throwing the money away. You have to make sure your nutrition and training are on point. If you have questions about nutrition, we have podcast 1232. It's a nutrition podcast titled Start Here. Awesome. Now, I'm going to go through and give kind of 3 suggestions per kind of training category. So we have bodybuilding / body shaping. That's 1. Powerlifting and strongman is 2. Fat loss, and then just kind of like an athlete. And I'll give kind of suggestions for what equipment I think will work best for those categories. But in general, I don't believe a lot of accessories, like equipment-wise, are needed. So I've trained in a ridiculous wide variety of gyms over the 22 years I've been lifting weights. And although I've enjoyed special equipment, and with the gym that I own and created, Brutal Iron Gym, I did buy specialty equipment. It's fun, and it can make exercises kind of more specific to the weaknesses and targeted areas. It can lessen collateral damage, meaning like you're trying to target this one muscle, and if you have this special piece of equipment, you don't annoy every other muscle trying to get to that muscle, which is helpful. And there are other benefits to it, but access to specialty equipment will not determine your results. If your nutrition is on point, your training quality is on point, and you're consistent, you're going to reach amazing results. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and actually talk about some things that you can do. One thing that I'll say that's probably assumed at this point, but every once in a while it does come up, is personal music, I think, is immensely significant. I can't even explain how significant I think it is. So having Bluetooth headphones for your phone, or a little MP3 player, if they still make those, I don't even know. But having some way to listen to music to get away from just random sounds is a great idea, or get away from people talking or talking to you is a great idea. Now, if you're a social person, you're like, well, I actually kind of like talking to people at the gym. Awesome. Talk to them after the gym. Talk to them after your workout. If you talk to them before the workout, you're going to get too long, and then you might run out of time to do the full workout the way you wanted, or you kind of lose a little bit of that buzz of your pre-workout if you take an energy drink, or, maybe you ate some food, but it's been, 2 hours, and you're trying to squeeze the workout in before your next meal, so you don't have great energy food-wise. You want to eliminate anything that can get in the way of a great workout. One of the things that can get in the way is talking to people before you start. So I know I'm going to sound like a grumpy dude, but I really do think having conversations before training is detrimental most often because most conversations aren't useful. This is going to make me really sound like an a-hole, but most people just want to bitch about things that are happening in their life, or just tell you random facts. None of it's helpful. None of it is going to help you get a better workout. So get your workout in first, then go talk to people, and you both can, bitch about life and complain about whatever the hell you want to complain about. But personal music is indescribably beneficial. One of the things is it just lets you focus in on your world, and you have less distractions. You can focus on the technique you're using. You can kind of stay in the right mindset for the workout. So I've had people tell me, well, I get lost on my phone, and sometimes I get, I end up on social media for too long. Well, just put like a playlist on and then stop looking at your phone. Like if you have YouTube, you can pay for like whatever the ad-free YouTube is. I don't even know how much it is. I think it's like $10 a month or something like that. Just put on, a motivational music mix that's like an hour long, hit play, and then put your phone away. Just shove it in your pocket or in a gym bag or whatever. If you have a playlist on whatever platforms have playlists now, like what would it be, like Apple Music or whatever, you can do that. Sometimes I'll listen to an audiobook, which I actually don't mind doing sometimes. Sometimes I just love music. So it's just getting into your own world and having that consistency of sound really helps you kind of zone in on what you're doing. It just kind of makes sense that if I can normalize one of my senses, it gives me more capacity to feel like another sense. So if I have sound being normalized and consistent, then I'm going to have a little bit better mind-muscle connection because I'm going to have more focus on my muscles. So music is something you should absolutely invest into if you're looking into some type of personal investment. Having some type of personalized music is a great idea. Now, getting into bodybuilding / body shaping, if that's a goal of yours, one of the things I think can help a lot is there's a new grip device called Angles 90 Grips. I think the name is trash, but they're these like ergonomic. I think the original ones are orange, but there's this orange ergonomic handle that has like a strap connected to it, and you can wrap it around pretty much anything in the gym. You can wrap it around a barbell, dumbbells, cable handles, or a machine. If it has a fixed handle at a certain angle that you don't like, you can put this handle on and kind of change the hand angle. But it allows you to pretty much any kind of pulling movement and other aspects, but it allows you to basically change the grip of things in a very easy way. So they're super duper light. They're very small. You can take them in a gym bag without any problems. And again, they're called Angles 90 Grips. And that is something that if your gym doesn't have a lot of cable handles, you don't need to buy 17,000 different cable handles. You can just buy this Angles 90 grip, and that gives you pretty much any hand position angle you want. Then also, if you're on, say, like your gym has a back row machine, but the handle options are crap and they don't fit you right or they don't feel right. Like, for example, I forget the company name. I think it's like Techno Gym, but they have these handles, these silver handles on their equipment that is kind of like almost like a triangular shape. Rather than being a round handle, it's a triangular shape. And there's a chest-supported row that they make. And when you pull on that thing, the handle doesn't rotate. But the angle of the machine, the handle actually rotates within your hand. So because it's shaped like a triangle, it ergonomically fits into like the crook of your fingers. So as you pull, you almost have to actually like flex your forearm and rotate your wrist to keep your hand at the right angle on their handles. It is a horrible design. Whoever designed that should be demoted, be taught how to properly design things, and then be promoted. So, shouldn't necessarily lose a job. They have a chance to learn some things, but it's like, daggum, whoever designed that was, I don't know what you were thinking. That is trash. It is a horrible, horrible handle. So, one of the gyms I go to is a commercial gym every now and then when I share the commute with my wife, and we go up into Charlotte. And there's a gym up there that has those type of machines. I actually don't mind everything else about the machine. Like, the leverage points are good. There's a lot of other good aspects. But the handle is garbage. One of the trainers there has Angles 90 grips, and I just bluntly asked him one day, I said, hey, if you're not training clients, can I borrow that? And he said, sure. So now he showed me where he stored his handles so I can go in and sneak in and get them. He has another handle called a Kaz handle, which is a very thick cone grip that is really cool for bicep curls and stuff. So he's very polite, and he lets me kind of steal some stuff from him every now and then. But those Angles 90 grips are awesome for allowing for different hand positions of different movements. So, for example, if you want to do, Smith machine shrugs, or barbell shrugs, but you don't want a double overhand grip, you want a little bit of a 45-degree angle, and that way you can pull back more with your shoulders, get more scapular retraction, and actually get the lower traps developed better. Angled 90 grips are going to be able to do that for you. So it's really cool. I think they're a good option. They're kind of fun to use, gives you a lot more variety. We also have floor sliders, just basic exercise floor sliders, like furniture movers. You might be familiar with them like that. But if you go on Amazon and type exercise floor slider, they're like $10. And they give you way more eccentric control when you're doing single leg movements like reverse lunges. If you're doing, dumbbell hang hold reverse lunges or goblet squat reverse lunges, or even if your gym has an open trap bar, you can do reverse lunges with that. But if you use a slider on the back foot, you can get way more eccentric control on those, and it's going to be much better for hamstring and glute development rather than just like a quad drive out of the bottom every time. So they're really cool. And then there's 4 million bodyweight exercise options and other variations of things you can do with floor sliders. Wrist straps. These are not wrist wraps where they secure your wrist. Wrist straps. They actually help you hold on to things. And I think they're fantastic for bodybuilders and body shaping kind of goals, is because you're not limited by your grip on exercises. You can actually train the targeted muscle to complete failure rather than being limited by your grip. Cool. So those are kind of 3 really good suggestions. I'm going to throw out a 4th one. On this one, I'm going to say, I'm not a doctor, so don't listen to me. Or blame me if you listen to me. But look into it. There's a breathing aid called Bronkaid, and it's ephedrine. And let me look that up, make sure. I'm 99% sure that that's true, but now all of a sudden I have a block in my mind as to whether or not I'm saying that right. But Bronkaid is it's spelled Bronkaid, Bronkaid Max. Now this is it's basically going to help you. It's like a bronchodilator. It helps you open up kind of the airways of your lungs. So it's a really cool thing. And I have exercise-induced asthma that was significantly bad when I was younger, and it still kind of catches me every now and then now. But it is a really cool product that helps you kind of open up your lungs and your breathing more. So it helps your aerobic capacity during movement and helps your aerobic recovery between movements. So yeah, it's ephedrine sulfate. Okay, so that is cool. That's something you can look at. Does it raise your blood pressure? No. You're going to have more blood pressure issues from the exercise you're doing than from Bronkaid. So it's not going to do that. And it doesn't have caffeine in it, so it's not going to make you super duper, tons of energy where all of a sudden you can't sleep. So it's just a really cool product. I would say, suggest looking into it because it does really have positive effects for aerobic capacity and recovery. My wife and I, we use it when we're doing aerobic-based activities. I use it a lot more because of the exercise-induced asthma, but she'll use it if she's doing our Bowflex we have at home, and she's doing 20-30 minutes of cardio. She'll chew up a tablet or swallow a tablet, and then that helps her just kind of breathe a little bit better while she's doing it. So really cool kind of supplement that you can look into. If you have any questions, ask your doctor. Do all the normal things that don't get me in trouble, but it is something to consider if you've never heard of that or never looked into it. Okay. Now, powerlifting and strongman, personal equipment, most often you're going to spend money on support systems. So knee sleeves, belt, wrist wraps, wrist straps. So those are going to be big expenses. They can be very expensive. They can be kind of cheap. Depends on if you go from a big name company or you just get something off Amazon. Some of the Amazon ones actually aren't bad. Like Iron Bull, I think, is a company that sells off Amazon, and they're really good. But you do also have, Pioneer belts and SBD belts that are like $200 and some for a single belt. But anywhere in there, price range. Just if you're new to things, probably spending money on the cheaper end of stuff off Amazon is a good way to just get familiar with the equipment, see if you like the benefits or not, and then you can maybe buy the more expensive stuff later on. We do have podcast 1349 as a training podcast titled Do Belts, Sleeves, Straps, and Wraps Make You Weaker? The answer is no, and I explain in that podcast how you can use those things to achieve like best results from them. So those are going to be by far kind of what you're going to spend the most money on. Then Olympic lifting shoes, maybe. Kind of depends on if you think you need them, but they can be incredibly helpful, especially if you do very upright lifts. So CrossFitters, if you're doing a lot of like high bar squats and front squats to help build like your Olympic lifts and those kind of accessory kind of movements, Olympic lifting shoes can be really good. If you don't already know that, if you're probably doing CrossFit, you probably already have Olympic. You probably showed up day one to CrossFit, realized everybody else had Olympic lifting shoes, so then you asked questions and now you bought them. But they are good to use. I started working with a client, I'm not sure actually, like maybe 6 months to a year ago, and he had been in CrossFit for a while, was struggling to kind of increase his strength, but nobody had actually mentioned Olympic lifting shoes to him, and he was 100% the body type that needed them. So once we got him the Olympic lifting shoes, all of a sudden, boom, he felt a lot more comfortable, less lower back pain, less hip pain, so everything really went a lot better for him. So every once in a while, you will catch somebody who doesn't know about the benefits of Olympic lifting shoes, and again, if you do very upright, torso upright movements, they can be very helpful. So podcast 807 is a training podcast titled Should I Wear Olympic Lifting Shoes When I Squat? And that would be a great podcast for you to listen to see if you need or could benefit from Olympic lifting shoes. A third category of thing, so we talked about supports was kind of number one, Olympic lifting shoes number two. A third category of things, if you're a strongman or a powerlifter, is a lacrosse ball. Sounds very weird. I'm not going to tell you to go play lacrosse as like cardiovascular exercise, but a lacrosse ball is very useful for preventative therapies and treatments for, like, say, addressing tight pecs, so that way you don't get into shoulder pain, like AC joint pain in your shoulder. It can help open up, add like your hamstrings to create kind of more freedom of motion before squats and deadlifts, which alleviates some lower back issues. There's a lot of other uses as well. So you can just go on YouTube and write like lacrosse ball therapy, and you'll see 40 billion examples of that. But a lacrosse ball is super crazy cheap, but you're going to find a lot of benefit from it. So powerlifters and strongman, those would be kind of three good suggestions to start with. And you could definitely do the bronchi too, for sure. Just helps with anything that's aerobic capacity based. So especially strongman, if you're doing some kind of crazy medley and you're running around for 70 seconds or whatever, you're probably going to need to breathe. So bronchi could help towards that as well. Now, fat loss clients, floor sliders, as I mentioned with bodybuilders and body shaping athletes, floor sliders, are awesome. They create a ton of variety for bodyweight movements, which helps you add a ton of volume to your training to help you burn off more calories and target more smaller muscles to help build stabilization and strength around your joints. So that's really good. And then the Bronchade would be helpful as well, because in fat loss training, you're probably doing more volume than you're definitely doing more volume than what you're comfortable with, but you're also doing a higher volume style of training, which is going to be more aerobic demanding. So getting some type of aerobic capacity, like breathing aid, would be very helpful. Then from there, what I'd actually suggest is some kind of coaching or programming or something to help with accountability. I know this is not a personal equipment thing, but I'd rather tell you answers I think are helpful rather than just fulfill some standard of an answer. But coaching / programming / something to help you hold accountability is invaluable. If you're trying to do this alone, you're making it much harder on yourself than you need to. Likely, in order for you to lose fat, you're having to do things that are the opposite of what made you fat. It's maybe a little too blunt, but the lifestyle and the habits that got you where you are, you're probably going to feel like you're doing the opposite of that to try to get you to lose body fat. Doing the opposite of your normal habits is freaking difficult. It's hard to be accountable with that. It's hard to be motivated for that. It's hard to just figure out how to change your whole freaking lifestyle, your whole mindset towards food. That could be a big issue. So it can be enormous challenge to basically uproot and reverse everything you normally do. Enormous. So getting some type of coaching, some kind of accountability aspect, programming help, something, just get something to where you don't feel like you're doing it alone, is going to be a huge, huge benefit. Now, we have podcast number 571. It's a training podcast titled Motivation, Information, and Accountability. And that's appropriate, like I did it on purpose where it was MIA. So if you are MIA in your training, if you're MIA in your nutrition, you're missing in action. So you started, you did some things, but all of a sudden you disappeared and no one can find you. So you're probably MIA because of one of these three things: motivation, information, or accountability. So in that podcast 571, we kind of talk about those. I give you ways to help you in each of those categories. So that could be a cool thing to check out if you have the time. Okay, last category we have there is athletes. And in general, one of the first things I have my athletes do is I look at their shoes. What do they have on their feet? Because with athletes, you do a wide variety of styles of training. You're going to do like sprint work, you're going to do jumps, you're going to do super heavy compound lifts like deadlifts, maybe squats. You're going to do a lot of freaking work, a lot of work. So having good shoes that match the needs for what you're doing is incredibly important. In general, I have my athletes, if we're looking for a singular shoe that's going to work for everything, is a flat sole. It doesn't have a pitch to the sole, so it's zero, flat. It does not have a thick cushion. We don't want you using like basketball shoes where you have like a huge thick cushion under your heel. We want pretty much not zero cushion, just a nice flat shoe. And then you want, basically what that's going to help you do is have good transfer into the ground. Crossfit shoes, I blanked on the name of them, but there are like shoes for like Metcons, I believe, where if we went to Rogue Fitness, so let me go there. So we're going to go to Rogue. We're going to look at equipment for, shoes. Here we go. So we would not want like the Olympic lifting shoes. We don't want a raised heel. We want kind of normal, basic, just good for you, help you be generally active shoes. So Reebok Nanos is a category of one that would work well. And then you can check these shoes out, see their specs, and then you can compare to any other company if you want. So you don't have to get like Reebok or Nike. But Nike's Metcons, they're a nice kind of pretty flat shoe that you want to use. You want to find a shoe that's light, you feel athletic, and you can kind of move around and have good transfer into the ground with. And then you might find, okay, if I'm doing really heavy lifts, I might benefit from an Olympic lifting shoe. So maybe you do have a pair of Olympic lifting shoes that you use for heavy lifts, but then you have regular basic shoes that you have for just regular training. So those would be things to check out. So Nike's Metcons and Reebok's Nanos, and then there's probably 4 billion other ones that I'm just unaware of right now or I can't find on Rogue. But check those out. Look at the specs of them. You'll see they're relatively light, flat soles, and they're going to be the best shoes for you to wear. So those are going to be really good. And then what we also would look at is the floor sliders can be great for adding more variety to your training, and then wrist straps. Again, they're the things that help your grip, so that way you're able to train your targeted muscles to failure, not failing because your grip is failing. You want to make sure that the actual muscle you want to target is the thing that fails first in the exercise. So those are ideas for personal equipment, and hopefully that was enough to get your brain started. But I know I'm not going to be able to name every single thing that somebody could possibly buy. I just can't possibly think of everything. So if you have anything specific that you didn't hear, let me know. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com, and I promise I'll send you back a response. I love getting emails. I truly appreciate it. It usually takes me around 3 to 7 days to kind of get back to everybody, but I try to never let anybody wait for longer than a week. But I do appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the interaction. It's super fun. It's super motivating. So please don't ever hesitate to send back anything, any questions. It just always helps me learn more, and or it turns into a good podcast, or it's now a piece of information I'll know to better help one of my clients. It's always a good thing when people reach out. I really do appreciate it. So if you have any questions, reach out. The last thing I'll say is that if you have money and you're like, okay, I want to buy some things, I want to do something that can help me get better results. If you're not already paying for coaching, pay for coaching. You're going to get way more investment, like way more return for your investment. If you get a coach or you get onto some type of program, something that helps you learn more about nutrition. And you're like, well, what if my goals are training goals? Nutrition absolutely is more important. So your nutrition has to support your training. The training, you're putting your body under stress. The stress that you're doing to it is specific to the result you want from it, right? That you want your body to do. If you're putting your body, under bodybuilding workouts because you want bigger muscle. If you're putting your body under stress stimulus, like strength stress, you're going to get stronger. If you're putting your body, under conditions in which body fat is a huge pain in the ass and it doesn't want to have that, it'll get rid of it. So training creates basically a stress to your body that says, make these changes. It's when you're not training, when you sleep, with what you eat, that your body's actually able to make those changes. So nutrition is like kind of the heart of what you want in regards to making progress and change. So invest into nutrition knowledge, whether that's a coach, whether that's a book, whether it's an online class. But absolutely, if you have some money and you don't have coaching yet, invest in a coaching or some type of knowledge base. That's by far going to be the best return for your investment. Now, if you already have a coach, hopefully they've been able to help you answer these questions and give you ideas of what you can use equipment-wise. That might be some extra benefits for you. And then if you're one of my athletes or one of my clients, here you go. So please email me, or please write in your journal if you're thinking about buying anything I mentioned in here. But hopefully this kind of gave you some ideas. I really do believe that small little additions here and there, like getting the bra cage, getting the wrist straps, having certain things can really help your training a lot. So do that. But if you're one of my clients, please check with me first, and I'll give you an idea if that's going to be the best way to spend your money. Okay, awesome. Well, I hope this was helpful. Hopefully it answered the listener's question. We actually went on and emailed back and forth, and they did get an answer. So this was basically for everybody else. So hopefully it was helpful to you. Hopefully you got something good from it. If you have any questions, just reach out. I'm always here, and I'm always happy to help. If you like today's podcast or the podcast in general, please consider sharing it. The more people we share the podcast with, the more people we can help. That's the whole goal. So if the podcast has been helpful to your life, please share it and let it help somebody else's life as well. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, the people who financially support the podcast. The podcast is well over $1,000 a year for hosting costs. I give an hour to it every day. I love doing it, but the financial support makes sure that I don't lose too much money doing it. So I love it. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can. And the financial donations really do help kind of contribute to make sure that's sustainable. You can consider giving if you want. At our website is www.brutalirongym.com. We have options for a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation. Anything you can give goes right to the hosting costs. So I truly appreciate it, and we all appreciate it, because that way we all have a podcast to listen to. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. If you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything that you want to know, let us know at our email, brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.